Week 1 is coming up, folks. Browns football is Sunday. The NFL season kicks off Thursday. And I got some fantasy football tips for you, too, but we're going to tee up Browns Bengals coming up. Let's go.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara. The sickest Cleveland Browns podcast.
Chubb runs, he's to the 10, 15, he's to the 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. There goes Chubb, he's to the 30, 20, 10, 5, touchdown, Shabba Lubba Hub.
It's gonna be sick.
Welcome to the show, everybody. I guess, you know what, for Sunday's show, we're going to be live 10 a.m. Eastern. Every Sunday, of course, teeing up the Browns game as well as full fantasy football picks, some our betting picks and everything. It's going to be amazing back here every Sunday for the Sick Podcast. So I guess since Nick Chubb is no longer on the team, I should at least change the player name that we have the late, great Jim Donovan calling. So we'll get to that. Maybe someone with Myles Garrett or something, but we're going to get through this week. And Sunday, it's go time. And I'm feeling confident. I got to tell you, folks, I am feeling more confident than I thought I would. Maybe it's just a good feeling of football being back. But I think Joe Flacco is being criminally underrated with how well he operates this offense. And the Browns could surprise. And this Bengals team is not unbeatable. That's for damn sure. Make sure you're clicking subscribe, notifications on. Follow us on X at SickPodBrowns, at AndyMC81, Instagram and TikTok at AndyMC Sports. Hey, you got your fantasy football questions? Hit me with them, baby. Hashtag Ask Andy. Also, we'll be returning on Sunday, and we'll have under the wire waiver wire pickups on Tuesday. So we are back, baby, and it's going to be a lot of fun here. So we'll get to the fantasy football. I have some starters I want you to take a look at this week. I'm going to get to that in a little bit. Some guys to keep an eye on. I think there's a couple players that we really aren't talking about enough that you need to get into the lineup if possible. But first, hey, let's bring in our guy. He's a regular to the show, and he's got a new exciting gig on Sunday's game day in Cleveland on 92.3 The Fan, the Tailgate Show. Our guy, Coach Lance Reisland, is back. Lance, how's it going, my man?
Hey, guys, how are you?
Doing good. And look, tell us the story quick, because you know I'm a huge wrestling fan, and I see a nice WWE Championship belt behind you, so you know I'm going to talk about that. What's going on?
Well, so the guys I used to do a podcast with, actually the first guys I did a podcast with, they're high school guys around here, and we used to have a kind of a round robin. We picked 15 games each week, and then at the end of the year, the total, whoever got the most wins got the belt. And I'd like to say I was lucky enough to keep the belt a couple of years. So anytime I talk with them or see, I like to show the belt off a little bit.
Nice, looking good, looking sharp. Hey, let's see what the Browns can do this season. The official depth chart was released. A little bit of news. The Browns waived running back Pierre Strong from IR. I guess no real surprise there, right, Lance? You brought in Rashid the Rocket, whatever his name is, and Quinshon Judkins hopefully will be joining the team sometime soon.
Well, you know, and Sanders is a guy who kind of gives the Browns what they need until Judkins gets ready to go in terms of he's 230. He's good in pass protection. They're going back to this power run game. He could be a red zone threat. He catches the ball well. He does a lot of things really, really well. So I think it was an outstanding pickup, especially for what they need. They need a power guy. Even if Judkins is back, you don't want to hammer him all the time. So I think Sanders is a good pickup just because of his skill set and what he brings to Kevin Stefanski's offense.
Yeah, good side. Like you said, because Dylan Sampson, exciting player. Jerome Ford, we know he can do, but they're not in between the tackle guys. They're not short yardage guys. They just aren't. So nice to have Sanders there. And again, hopefully Quinshon Judkins is with the team sooner than later. Very confusing situation. Are we waiting for an NFL suspension? Is it contract? Because Lance, really going back to the Kevin Stefanski offense that we're so excited about and the play action ability of Joe Flacco only works if your running game is a real threat. And if you don't have an in-between the tackle guy, that suffers.
Well, I will say this. Two things. One is I think he'll be back. He's a guy that I think he can get back because he's a downhill bull in a china shop, right? So he's not where Sampson's very patient, great zone runner, kind of sets things up. Judkins is downhill right now. Where he'll have to get caught up with it would be pass protection. So now the second part is I think this power run game comes down more. Obviously, you got to have a good back, but this comes down to the guys up front. And I think the Browns going back to what they do up front, they're going to be a plug and play guy. Now, obviously, the better the back, the more yards you get, but they want to get to 2nd and 6. They get to 2nd and 6, they're going to be very successful. And I think for me, that's more about the offensive line. That's more about vertical displacement. That's about toughness. And hopefully these backs, regardless of who they are, obviously Judkins is a very talented kid, so hopefully he gets back. But for me, this power run game starts with the O-line, so that's what I'm looking for on Sunday.
And the O-line is excited about it. Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller speaking about getting back to this. They're thrilled, which is great. You want them to be excited about that. Last year was just a total schmoz, and now they're getting back to what works. They're re-energized. They're ready to go. So we'll have Joe Flacco at the helm at least to start. Producer Shane, if you can pull up the depth chart, please, and we'll take a look because, Lance, you were covering Browns training camp very closely on your X account. You were detailing, going over different plays, who impressed you, who didn't. Let's start with let's go to not even a starter. This guy who just wowed, Brian Baldinger from NFL Network too. I know you were a fan. Adin Huntington playing a Huntington Field, coincidentally enough, a backup defensive tackle. Andrew Berry's draft class, outside of the weird quarterback situation, is looking stellar, and that includes these undrafted guys. Tell me what you saw about this Huntington as part of this, and it's the possibilities of him being in this rotation, because he seems like he's tailor-made for the Jim Schwartz defense.
Well, the reason he wasn't, in my opinion, the reason he wasn't, highly sought after, he's 280 pounds. But what he does, he absolutely plays with his hair on fire. And you're absolutely right. He's a perfect scheme fit. If you think about the first couple of games, he was covering kicks. You got a guy 280 pounds that went down, made 3 or 4 tackles on kickoff. Very impressive. Now, what he does very well, he's a one-gap guy, right? So if he was asked to be a two-gap guy, he would struggle because he's only 280 pounds. But he plays with great leverage. He plays with great violent hands. He has a great first step. He has great get-off. And he's going to be a rotational guy that comes in there and is going to be a pass rush guy. And that's one thing he can do at a very high level is pass rush because he has incredible get-off. His reaction to the snap is as good as I've seen, including, it's in that Myles Garrett where he's just shot out of a cannon every time he gets and if you think about what he needs to do, he needs to be a specialist, right? He's like a lefty on lefty in baseball. He's got to come in, he's got to rush the passer, but he does a lot of things really, really well. He plays heavier than 280, very impressive guy. Juwan Briggs is a guy they got rid of, was a guy I was high on too, but he doesn't quite fit the scheme fit for Schwartz. So Huntington's a guy super impressive. He'll make a ton of plays this year. Had a great camp, especially last 4 or 5 days of camp. He was outstanding.
I could just picture him being a fan favorite. I think he's going to go. And the bend on him, Lance. Holy cow. The footage I saw from yourself and from Brian Baldinger, the bend. And by that, I mean him being able to dip at the leg and just contort himself with that size is remarkable. Like he looked, I'll say it, like that bend reminded me of Myles Garrett. Like it was really wild.
Yeah, he's got tremendous bend, and he's fearless, right? And when you watch a defensive tackle, if you watch them the whole practice, or you go back through a game and you watch the end, those guys are going to get killed once in a while. Those guys are going to get doubled. Those guys are going to get trapped. They're going to get countered. You have to be fearless. Those defensive tackles are fearless guys because they're going to get blocked once in a while. It's a fearless guy, and he kind of, like you said, he fits the mold, right? They have 8 or 9 guys who are long. They can play inside or outside. They're heavy. They have great reaction. They play great. They extend very well. They have rotational pieces in there that are going to be very, very hard to block for 4 quarters.
Well, let's link this up to the Bengals game week 1 on Sunday, because we know the Bengals have a lot of firepower. They're going to score a lot of points no matter how good the defense is. And the Browns secondary, which we can get into, gets thin quick. And let's say there's a lot of opportunity for players to prove themselves. How important to you is that front 4 for the Browns? And you can include the linebackers, I guess, on top of that with Schlesinger, who's been an absolute stud. How important is it for them to put quick pressure on Burrow and make him uncomfortable? Because my fear, Lance, is if Burrow has any sort of time back there, he could pick this secondary apart if your name isn't Denzel Ward.
Well, yeah, that's a fair assessment. I will say this: if the Browns can win on first down, for me, it all starts with first down. So if they can win on first down, you get Joe Burrow to 2nd 10 or 3rd and 10. Now those routes have to go a little bit deeper, right? And now the drop has to go from 3 to 5 steps or 3 to 7 or play action or whatever it may be. I will say the biggest mismatch, without question, in this game is the Browns' defensive line versus that Bengals offensive line. So if you look at Brown will be the left tackle and Mims will be the right tackle. Both outstanding players, but both are real tall and both struggle with guys who go from power to speed or speed to power and play with great bend. They don't bend very well, which is going to be a problem. Now, at the right guard, they got a guy named Lucas Patrick Rivers, or I think his name is Reisner. These are guys, they don't even know who the right guard is yet. Those guys are still fighting it out. So and then they got Fairchild, who's a rookie out of Georgia, who, again, tall guy, struggles with bending a little bit. Karras is a really good center. He'll do great. But the thing is, if you can get them where the quarterback has to drop more, this is a mismatch of really epic proportions, in my opinion. This defensive line, especially with Graham and Malik Collins, this is the best. I've been going down there for 5 years now, and this is the best D-line by far. Graham and Malik Collins Graham is going to be a special player. Malik Collins is already a special player. So those guys inside are really going to give those guards trouble. The bend with Garrett and Wright and McGuire. So for me, if you see the Browns winning on first down on defense, they're going to win this game because the Bengals will struggle. The other thing that makes that important, Andy, is that Coach Taylor loves to get 5 out, give Burrow a clear window or clear picture. And when you get 5 out, that means you're only pass protecting with those 5 offensive linemen. So that's another problem. That's why the Browns have had such success, because they can cover. But to your point, they're going to have to do that because their secondary is thin. But I think they're counting on those guys up front. And I'd be shocked if those guys don't get home a bunch.
Right. And I guess the strategy has to be, which we know Schwartz likes to do, is not to blitz. It's to send those 4, right? And remember, we talked about Huntington. You still have Shelby Harris, who's a fine player when healthy too. You got that rotation. You can mix and match as well. Move Alex right around Garrett. We've seen Schlesinger up on the line at times also. So I think the idea has to be, you need to get pressure with those 4 so that you can drop everybody else back and make it a little crowded for Burrow.
Well, and what they've done with those linebackers is, so you're going to see a bunch where they're going to mug, and what that means is they're going to take both A gaps. Those inside linebackers they're going to put their foot right next to that football, and sometimes they're going to bring 4, sometimes they're going to bring 5, sometimes they're going to bring 6. But that offensive line has to prepare for 6. Even if they don't bring 6, that's part of being an offensive lineman. You got to prepare for what they're showing you. So I see the Browns have done that. And the reason the Browns could do that, because Schlesinger and Baker, these guys are good enough to stay the line of scrimmage and still drop into their coverage and drop into their pass lanes. And once again, taking away that quick passing game is going to be key. Again, that comes down to winning on first down, being good in coverage. And you're right. The bottom line is it's a numbers game. If you can get pressure with 4, you can put 7 in coverage. Yeah. And what that really means for me is taking away the quick underneath stuff that Joe Burrow loves to throw. Once again, I'll be shocked if they don't show 6 on almost every play and bring 4 and drop into coverage.
It's going to be a fascinating chess piece. And we move to the offensive side of the ball for the Browns. And we know that Bengals' weakness is defense. And they didn't do much to address that. You had Hendrickson, who held out most of camp. You have Shamar Stewart, who, Lance, I am getting severe Jadeveon Clowney vibes, but lesser. I think this guy is always a half second behind, and that doesn't get better in the NFL. Maybe he can stop the run. But bottom line, you've seen this offense and all the quarterbacks and the competition and all that. We know it's Joe Flacco. We know it's Jerry Jeudy and David Njoku as those top targets. Offense as a whole, how you see it now with the depth chart there. What were your takeaways from camp and moving into this week 1 matchup?
Well, first of all, both sides of the ball, but especially offense, they were a lot more physical. So they had some days where they went live, which is something Kevin Stefanski has not done since I've been down there for a number of years. So they went live. So I think they're a little bit more prepared going into week 1. Joe Flacco, without question, was the number 1 quarterback. It wasn't given to him. And I tell everybody that, and I've said that a bunch today. He went out and earned it. He was by far the best quarterback. And you can see his experience. Now, what I see the Browns doing against Al Golden and the Bengals, Golden came from Notre Dame, and what he likes to do is he likes to play close to the best, meaning he relies on getting lined up, being very fundamentally sound. And I see the Browns going a lot of 12 personnel. Why? Because I think Fannin's very a special football player. And with Al Golden, I think when the Browns go 12 personnel, he's going to put in 3 linebackers. And with those 3 linebackers, now you're going to get mismatched with Njoku and Fannin. It also allows you to run play action. It also allows you to get Jeudy deep. I think Seth Tillman, when healthy, has shown that he can do it. However, he's got to consistently do it and consistently stay healthy. But I think 12 personnel gives them the best chance against Cincinnati because they can shorten the game and they can keep the ball. They can run the ball and keep the ball out of Burrow's hands and shorten that clock and make it very difficult. Again, now you're up. So now you've shortened the game. Now you got to pass. And once you have to pass, and the Browns know you have to pass, now you're playing into their strength, which without question is that defensive line and pass rush.
Yeah, and then Myles Garrett can put on his bib and do what he does, and that's get after Joe Burrow. When you look at the other factors of this offense, I'm glad you brought up Harold Fannin Jr. Because he just wowed through camp and is a chess piece. And we saw him lined up in a whole bunch of different areas. I am very interested to see how he is used once everything goes live, because that could be a real chess piece for Kevin Stefanski. What about the two? You mentioned Sid Tillman. We know the receiver group, and if Fannin can hit, it might not matter. But you have Jamari Thrash, and then you have, we talked about Huntington on the defensive side of the ball, this Gage Lavardane out of nowhere was brought in because they had 4 quarterbacks, kept wowing people, and made them give him a roster spot. Like, he's a fan favorite already, but for Gage here, Lance, you saw him live. How do you think he's going to be incorporated into this lineup?
Well, he's an undersized guy, and the reason he wasn't drafted, wasn't really highly thought of is because he's not a big guy. But what he can do, even though he's undersized, he can play both. He can play inside and outside. He runs really good routes. If you think from the outside, the comebacks, the deep outs, the post routes, he does all that very, very well. He's very quarterback friendly, meaning he always seems to be in the right spot versus man and versus zone. He's a little jitterbug now, so he's hard to cover if you're in man. He works very well against the linebackers underneath, crossing routes, things of that nature. And Jamari Thrash was very impressive during camp, especially late in camp. Had some good days down in Philly. I was down in Philly as well. So I think those guys are going to be okay. But again, I think Fannin, going back to him, like you said, I had him, he was at receiver at 1. He was in the slot. He was at tight end. I think the key for Fannin is if Fannin can play a little bit of fullback and block and have a little bit of success blocking, that will force teams to put more linebackers in the game, which then allows for matchup problems. And with the backs, all these backs can catch. So I think I see on third down, I see a lot of 12 personnel, but I see empty in 2 backs because both Njoku and Fannin can play multiple spots, both at receiver and tight end and anywhere else. So Fannin's been very, very impressive, not only with his skill set, but his ability to absorb the playbook. He's been very consistent all camp. Every day I was there, he was outstanding.
And of course, last one for you here, Lance, another player that the Bengals are going to have to account for is a bit of an X factor, Isaiah Bond, who had 2nd or early 3rd round talent, had some legal issues. That was cleared up. Browns got him, picked up the playbook in 3 days, fast enough. He got into the game, into the last preseason game. Now, didn't get a target, but he's the fastest player on this team. And I think, again, if you can, for everything you lined up with the running backs, the tight end, Jerry Jeudy, if you can mix in an Isaiah Bond and that speed, that could be an extra wrinkle that could break the back potentially. I don't know how many targets he's going to get, but if you get Isaiah Bond involved as some sort of speed weapon, a la Xavier Worthy in his rookie year with the Chiefs, that could be something special.
Well, early on, I look for him to have a package, right? So early on,
right.
a couple of routes you'll see, he might just blow off the top of the defense, right? Get those safeties going back so you can work underneath on that levels concept. You can also see him on some bubble screens and slants. And if you think about 3-step drop, hitches, slants, go routes, basically allow him to play fast as he's learning the playbook. So I would be shocked if he doesn't have a package, right? So he's going to probably have 10 to 12 plays that allow him to play extremely fast and use his speed, whether as a decoy or touching the ball. And I think that's important that they have that guy. And as he continues to learn his offense and do the right thing on and off the field, I think he's a guy who has a ton of talent, right? He's a guy who can run. He does have a first, 2nd round grade. I loved him coming out of Texas. However, the thing that worries you is that he goes away sometimes, right? And he didn't have huge numbers at Texas, obviously with Golden, but he does have the skill set. And he has a skill set that can be used in different ways that is not always catching the football. There's a lot about spreading a defense that a speed guy can do for you. And that can be done without knowing a lot of offense, right? You're running a vertical, you're running a corner, you're running a post. Those are things he can do.
And Joe Flacco, I can just picture it, Lance, on Sunday afternoon, Joe Flacco throwing up one of those beautiful long bomb dimes and Bond running right underneath it, keeping it simple. Essentially, we want to have him in space. Not great at 50-50 or contested balls, but that's fine. I don't want him going up against tough corners. I want to have him the ball in space so he can run, right? Like,
that's an easy yards guy, right? You and I have talked about it, right? So you put him in the slot, you throw slants to him, you throw hitches, you throw fades, you keep it really simple. You allow, you don't overcoach speed, right? Because once I've said it before, once you're thinking your feet aren't moving, and then all of a sudden if you're not running fast, then he loses his strength, right? Because 50-50 is not his thing. He runs well after catch, but really what he does is he stretches the field, and he's a vertical threat. He's not super sudden in space, but he's a straight line speed guy, which you need it too. You have contested guys. You have tight ends that are big. You have Tillman and Judy. You need a guy who can run a bubble screen, can run a reverse, can do different things just to make people, everybody always laughs because Kevin Stefanski runs a end around it doesn't work all the time. But I will say this, as an offense coordinator, the defense has to work on it. And that's what you're trying to do with those guys, is make the defense work on things that aren't your primary thing. So your primary thing is very good. Maybe this year that'll finally work. That's that freaking end around. I think Demetric Felton is still running somewhere in our minds. Lance, absolutely. He's still in motion, perpetually in motion, Demetric Felton. Lance, super exciting for you because on game days on Sunday, 92.3 The Fan, you're on the Tailgate Show. Tell people where they can read you and now hear you for this Brown season. Well, I'm on X and on Instagram. It's just simply at Lance Reisland, LanceReisland. And then Sunday morning's got a great opportunity with Keith and John. I'll be working with Jonathan Peterland, who's just an outstanding host. He'll do the hard stuff. I'll just fill in the football stuff. We'll be on up to 12:50 from 9 to 12:50 every week, and we'll take you right up to kickoff. And obviously we'll be talking scouting reports, and we'll be talking leading up to the game and everything involved with both sides of the ball. And great opportunity, guys like you who have had me on. It's been awesome, and I look forward to hopefully giving the fans a little bit of football knowledge as they get ready for each week. Well, we appreciate you, man, and you bring it like no other. We love the insight always. Congrats on the gig, and we'll talk again soon. Absolutely. Look forward to it. All right. There he goes. Lance Reisland for 92.3 The Fan, and you can find all his writings and in-depth. And this is what I love. You can go back and check out episodes from this offseason. In fact, I encourage you to, on the different players, the rookies, the defense, the offense, and Lance breaks down the film with us. Just a nice deep dive, gives you that good understanding of what this Browns team has the potential to do. So we're going to have our official game prediction for Browns Bengals. That's going to be on Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern, baby, live. We'll be giving our best bets. We'll be giving fantasy football. We'll be teeing up this game. And I mentioned off the top, a couple fantasy football tips. Now I'm in 4 leagues this year. Okay, looking to get some more rings. Look at that. 1, 2, 3. This one I have 2 on. 3, 4, 5, 6 championship rings. Looking to add a couple others this year. And I think this is in part how I'm going to do it. So I included Isaiah Bond as late flyer. Again, we're not starting him this week. But for a player late in a draft or undrafted that you're looking at, and it's like, okay, is the player at the bottom of my lineup going to have a chance? Isaiah Bond has a huge upside. So that's someone I would recommend getting in early on the waiver. Park doesn't do anything. You drop him. No problem. But he's somebody there. But the name I think, and it's not a sexy team, Carolina Panthers, right? They stink. I don't believe in Bryce Young, but I believe in him enough to distribute the football. You get Tedatory McMillan, who's questionable. You got Coker, who's out. Renfro's coming back, but yeah, he's kind of toast. The guy no one's talking about, and I'm looking right now, he has started in just 1% of fantasy leagues, okay? And his ownership level is just 18%. Xavier Leggett of the Carolina Panthers. Guys, I'm telling you, I have a tremendous feeling about this. Flex spot, or you have 3 wide receivers, get him in. Okay? Get him in. He's facing the Jacksonville Jaguars to start. Come on. We scared the Jags? No. And I'm not scared of the Panthers either. This could be a sloppy game. The running back for the Panthers, Chuba Hubbard, had an okay year. He's not some unstoppable force. Xavier Leggett, I think, is going to get opportunity, and he's going to have success. The speed is there, 4.3940 coming out of the combine, right? Second-year player, and this is someone I think who can really pop up and do something here with this opportunity. He's going to be, especially with McMillan not 100% healthy, early season, you get yourself some Xavier Leggett in there, okay? Get him in there. I think he's going to be there's a lot of opportunity. And
Again, somebody I've been talking about for last few weeks, and I've been talking on and off for a couple of years. Ollie Gordon. Wish he went to the Browns or had a better overall situation, but he's with the Dolphins. A-Chain looks like he's going to play, but he's not 100%. All I'm saying is, now you want to be gutsy, you can play Ollie Gordon. I'm not recommending we're playing him, but this is somebody with heavy handcuff upside and may be able to have early season roles right now. I think if that Dolphins O-line can create a little bit of space, this is someone who can be special. You look at his stats, and you're like, Andy, what are you saying? The Oklahoma State Cowboys, where he played, their O-line sucked last year. I'm not putting that on Ollie. Year before, tremendous. This guy, he can catch, he can run, he's decisive runner, he can cut. Really good vision. Ollie Gordon, I'm high on. So those are two. Isaiah Bond, Ollie Gordon, Isaac Tesla. Go back and watch the Michael Fabiano episode up on the channel here and on X at AndyMCD1 at Sick Pod Browns. Okay? That's why you click subscribe. Fabiano, huge on Tesla for Detroit. Huge. I picked him up in a couple leagues. Again, someone you're parking, someone you're waiting on. But a guy I think if you're iffy on your flex or on your third wide receiver, Xavier Leggett week 1. I think there's a real opportunity. And again, it's against the Jags. What are we doing, right? Come on. Jags aren't scaring anybody. So there you go, folks. We will be back live Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern. And we're going to set up Browns, Bengals. Get ready for the season. It's going to be a parlay party. We're going to be making bets. We're going to be answering your fantasy football questions. Get them in using hashtag AskAndy on X at AndyMC81, at SickPodBrowns, Instagram at AndyMCSports. Fantasy football, betting and Browns. What could be better? 10 a.m. Eastern. Big thanks to Coach Lance Reisland from 92.3 The Fan for jumping on. Producer Shane. I'm Andy McNamara. We'll see you Sunday when we'll be yelling, Go Browns!
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.